Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez.
And I'm Kevin Friel. We'd like to remind you right at the top that the meetings we cover are available on demand at the town's website. You can log on at www.town.barnstable.ma.us.
Right now on Barnstable Today, we're bringing you the highlights of the Silent Spring Institute's much-talked-about presentation of its latest study of emerging chemical contaminants in our public drinking water supply.
As the Institute's Dr. Laurel Shader explained last week here at Town Hall, the study tested water from 20 public wells across Cape Cod, many of them in the town of Barnstable. Here, Dr. Shader describes what chemical researchers were looking for and why.
So we relied on studies that had been done on Cape Cod and in all parts of the country to get a sense of which chemicals we thought would be likely to be found. And we also did try to include endocrine disruptors as well. So in terms of the families of chemicals we tested for pharmaceuticals, both over-the-counter and prescription medications. We tested for several personal care product ingredients, such as fragrances. We tested for hormones, both natural hormones as well as synthetic hormones that are in certain pharmaceuticals, and then several classes of chemicals that are added to consumer products. So perfluorinated compounds are found in certain types of cookware, and they're added to furniture and clothing to make these products stain resistant or nonstick or grease resistant. Organophosphate flame retardants are also found in furniture and clothing, especially children's clothing, to make them flame resistant. Alkophenols are a class of chemicals we've been tracking on the Cape for quite a while. They're weak hormone disruptors, and they're found as breakdown products of certain ingredients in detergents. We also tested for 5 commonly used herbicides.
So what kinds of chemicals turned up in the samples, and where are they coming from? Dr. Shader provides those answers here.
So overall, we tested for almost 100 chemicals. Of the 92 chemicals that we tested for, 18 were detected at parts per trillion levels. These chemicals fell into several categories, so we detected 9 pharmaceuticals, 1 insect repellent, DEET, which is commonly used, 2 perfluorinated compounds. Again, these are those additives, the non-stick, stain-resistant additives, 5 of those flame retardants, and an alkophenol. In terms of the fraction of the samples that contained at least one of these chemicals, 15 of the 20 wells and both distribution systems contained at least one of these chemicals. So for the most part, septic systems are the most likely source of these chemicals getting into groundwater and making their way into drinking water. In some instances, other sources are possible. So for PFAS, remember that was our second most detected chemical, and a related chemical, PFOA, these are both perfluorinated chemicals, the highest levels that we found were detected down gradient of the Barnstable Airport. These chemicals are used in firefighting foams and in aviation hydraulic fluids, so it's possible the airport itself is a source. There are also a number of other potential sources in the area, and we think this would be a good area to focus further study to pinpoint where these perfluorinated chemicals are coming from.
Dr. Shader went on to explain that all the chemicals were found in parts per trillion, extremely small quantities that until recently could not even be measured. Though the true health effects of such low levels of chemical contaminants are mostly unknown, Dr. Shader did say current drinking water standards are set in parts per billion, or thousands of parts per trillion.
Still, the study concluded that governments and citizens alike need to be more proactive about limiting the amount of chemicals that make their way into the groundwater.
So you might be sitting there and saying, well, what can I do? And we would say, keep drinking your tap water. It's better tested and protected than bottled water or private well water. If you're concerned about the results of testing in your district, or you know that the nitrate levels are elevated at your household level, you can get a solid carbon block filter to treat the water in your home. It's important to keep in mind if you're going to do that you have to maintain them, otherwise they're not going to do any good. And in terms of bottled water, I'm kind of a staunch anti-bottled water person, because it's just, in terms of a sustainable drinking water supply, it just makes sense to drink local water. And again, if you're concerned, you can filter the water at your home. Don't flush unused medications or hazardous materials down your sinks or toilets. Ask about medication take-back days, hazardous waste collection programs. I know here in Barnstable there was a drug collection day earlier this month. Yarmouth had one last month. And these programs serve not only to divert some of the medications from going down the drain, although it's important to remember that a lot of the medications do come just from excretion from people when we take medications, but they also they raise awareness about the connection between what goes down your toilet and the groundwater and drinking water. You can reduce reliance on household products containing harmful chemicals. This not only it potentially helps drinking water quality, but reduces your own exposure in your home. Maintain your septic system if you have one, and support local efforts to prevent contamination in wellhead protection areas. And I'll just state these again: ensuring to prevent septic system discharges from getting into drinking water sources, acquiring land to protect open space as a buffer from development, and enforcing zoning regulations in these areas.
So, should we be alarmed by the results of this study? David Larkowski, superintendent of the Dennis Water District, doesn't think so, but he does believe that it's important to keep working toward more solid conclusions about how these chemical contaminants may affect us and what water suppliers should do about it.
We're regulated by the EPA, Safe Drinking Water Act, DEP. We do all the testing that we're supposed to. All of our drinking water meets current drinking water guidelines. It's reports or studies like this that are looking forward for things that we haven't tested for. And there's new technology coming out, parts per trillion. That's a super, super small number. We've never tested down that far. We were going to push our regulators to continue research, Silent Springs, to find out if these chemicals, these contaminants, at any detection level or any limit, is a health hazard. And we might not say, okay, if you find it in 10 parts per trillion, you might see it, but it's not a health hazard until you get to 10 parts per billion. But at least today we can see it. Pressure our regulators and researchers to continue the research. Maybe they're going to find that a chemical is going to be bad and they're going to ban it and continue on that front. If anyone's concerned about chemicals, though, it's our own personal responsibility to help. What you flush down the toilet comes back to us. We've said that for years, and here's a perfect example of it.
For more information on the Silent Spring Institute, visit www.silentspring.org.
Now let's take a look at this week's meetings. Tuesday, May 18th at 8 a.m., the Housing Committee meets in the Selectmen's Conference Room. At 3:30, the Town Council Press Conference takes place in the Town Hall Hearing Room. At 4 o'clock, the Barnstable Historical Commission meets in the Selectmen's Conference Room. At 6 o'clock, the Airport Commission meets in the Gorley Conference Room. At 6:30, the Conservation Commission has a hearing in the Town Hall Hearing Room. Wednesday, May 19th at 5 o'clock, the Renewable Energy Commission meets in the Selectmen's Conference Room. At 6 o'clock, the amnesty hearings take place in the Town Hall Hearing Room. At 7 o'clock, the Highness Main Street Waterfront Historic District Commission meets in the Selectmen's Conference Room. At 7:30, the Shellfish Committee meets in the MEA Conference Room. Thursday, May 20th at 7 o'clock, the Town Council meets in the Town Hall Hearing Room.
Well, that's all we have for now. For Kevin Friel, I'm Nick Cortese. We'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.